Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. My show is about celebrating artists and their body of worth. What makes a great artist? How do they get from point A to point B and beyond? What are the milestones in their lives, the milepost in their life? That's what we're going to talk about today with our very special guest star. I am so excited. I have been wanting to sit down with Amanda McBroom for so long. Today is the day. Before I bring her on, I'm going to show her in concert from a few years ago. This song is so apropos for where we are now. She actually has a new recording of this song, but I don't have a live recording of her doing the song. So I'm going to start with this today, and then you'll meet Amanda McBroom on the other side.
Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me, here at last on the ground, you in midair. Send in the clowns. Isn't it bliss? Don't you approve? One who keeps tearing around, one who can't move. Where are the clowns? Send in the clowns. Just when I stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours, making my entrance again with my usual flair, sure of my lines, no one is there. Don't you love farce? My fault, my fear. I thought that you'd want what I want. Sorry, my dear. Where are the clowns? Quick, send in the clowns. Don't bother, they're here. What a surprise. What a cliché. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queer? Losing my timing this late in my career. And where are the clowns? There ought to be clowns. Well, maybe next year.
Amanda McBroom.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, it is so good to have you here. I want to start with where we are in the world right now. First of all, welcome to the show. That song is so apropos. Today marks 429 days since our theaters shut down last year. Now, our governor just announced today that starting on Wednesday, for those of you who do not know, masks are no longer required if you've been vaccinated. But my hope is that you all get vaccinated and you still follow the precautions.
And
but I want to ask, yes, but I want to ask you, how are you doing really in the midst of this world we find ourselves in now?
Well, that's a lighthearted way to start. I'd have to say it's been an incredible double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. Part of me has really enjoyed the quiet, the introspection, the chance to not have to put on mascara and a brassiere for this length of time. Although now I have to remember how to do it. But also just reminding I keep having to remind myself that this is not the first time society has been through this. Mm-hmm. That's 100. Go back every 100 years. The same kind of disaster has struck. So it's not that it's unusual, and it's interesting to watch how people are responding. Who steps up? Who steps back? Who behaves badly? For what reason? For fear? For stupidity? Gullibility? It's such an emotional whirlwind of pluses and minuses. Watching people's hope muscles get strengthened, their compassion muscles get strengthened. You know, during the easy times, the hero in us does not come out. Mm-hmm. It's during the disastrous times that the hero comes out. Amen. And then there's wondering if that, benighted in what they call the invalid of theater, will it survive and how will it change? Because it's going to change.
How has the year changed you beyond the obvious things that we're all going through?
Well, for me, I was wandering in my garden about 15 months ago, maybe more, thinking, darling, is it time to put the high heels in the recycle bin? Is it time to just stay in the garden? And is it time to retire? And the universe said, want to know? And so after about 3 months, I said, I don't want to retire. No, I'm not ready to do that yet. And then, of course, I look at a picture of Marilyn May, and I think about my pal, Julie Wilson, who always would shake her finger at me and say, you must keep singing. You must keep writing. She was very strict with me. So
absolutely. There are so many times. I remember one night after being out really late, I am on the subway at 2:00 in the morning, and I see this woman sitting across from me, and she's got a shopping bag next to her by herself. And it was Julie Wilson with her beaded gown and her gardenia in the bag on her way home from a gig.
In her sneakers.
And that's the glamorous part of show business, folks.
Oh, yeah. God bless her.
But, for a lot of people, you just, so many different elements you just talked about. For some people, they stopped in their tracks. Some people got even more creative. Have you done a lot of writing over the past year? I know that you do have a CD that's coming out in May.
Well, yes, I have. Well, I have a CD that just came out, I started recording, singing. My dear pal Ann Hampton Calloway and I have been talking about this forever. We started writing songs together, which has been a delight. But she started to release them as singles. She says, who knows if anybody's aside from us dweebs is ever going to buy a CD again, now that it's all on streaming and Spotify and all that. So she started doing things as singles. And I talked to Michele Brourman, my other divine writing partner. So we decided to start doing things as singles. And if we get enough of them together and there's enough interest, maybe releasing that as a CD. But I have, not like Anne. Anne decided that during COVID, she would write a poem a day. She's a much more disciplined person than I am. And some glorious poetry has come out that she's been posting on Facebook. I only write when a thought grabs me by the throat and will not let me go. And I can't excuse myself and say, no, I've got to clean the cat box, or I've got to, have another cup of coffee. I've got to sit down and write something. And it's always been that way. I'm not a disciplined writer, but things have been coming out, which has been really interesting. And then started optimism that I am. I started working with Michele on a new musical, just in case the word will let a small musical back out into the mainstream. And so, yeah, I've been creative. It just hasn't, I thought when this whole thing started, I'm going to write a song a day. I'm going to write a poem a day. No, I planted carrots.
But don't you feel that there's a release in not having to have the constraints of, I'm going to show it to a show tonight, I'm going to be performing tonight, I'm going to be doing this tonight, and just letting things flow naturally? That, for me, that's what the year has been like for me.
Well, of course, you live in New York, darling.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have a garden and cats and dogs.
No, I do. My husband is a landscape architect.
Oh my God!
So we have a garden, vegetables. He does all of that, but we do have all that.
Well, excuse me, you just said it. He does all of that, darling. Yes. And you go to the theater. Yeah. I have hideously missed going to live performances. Live, singing, theater, you name it. I have so many, and God bless everybody who's been singing from their bedroom and who has been keeping the flame alive, and as a result, creating whole new formats for the art, which is including StreamYard, which is what we're doing now. And who knew that Zoom would ever be a blessing? Go figure. So,
and it's interesting because I thought that the ring light came about as a result of COVID, only to find out that the ring light was actually created in the 1950s by a dentist. I researched it because I thought, wouldn't it be great to get the person who created the ring light on this show, only to find out that this has been around a long time, but it took COVID for everyone to embrace the ring light.
Absolutely. The ring light, sweatpants. Yes. Turning that into a fashion statement. I had no idea. It's a wonderful invention. God bless the ring light.
Now, you mentioned something a moment ago with Anne Hampton-Callaway, who I am crazy about. Yeah. And you mentioned putting these songs out as singles.
Yes.
When you first started in the business and you were creating albums, did you go into that process thinking of the entire arc of an album, or was everything individual and then it was put together for the album?
Well, I was introduced to the world of the album because of The Rose, because the guy who played the piano for Bette during the recording of the song The Rose, I was singing the backup harmonies for her. And his name was Lincoln Mayorga, and he is a wonderful pianist and arranger. And he snuck up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, I want to record an album with you. I'd never recorded anything with anybody, And he said, I'm going to record an album with you. Come with me. And he took me over onto the MGM soundstage where Fred tapped and Judy sang. And he said, we're going to put you right there in the middle of that wooden floor. Wow. And I surround you with an orchestra, and we're going to do a direct-to-disc album. And I was flabbergasted anyway that he had offered this to me. And I was afraid of going into a studio because I'd never, ever done that. But put me on a stage, surround me with an orchestra, make it a live performance, no problem. But direct-to-disc, so you record the entire side without stopping. So I recorded, I think it was 8 songs, about 4 times until we figured we had the perfect one. And then we recorded the next side without stopping. But we knew what the entire arc of the album was going to be. And that's always the way, that's one of the artistic things about creating an album, a CD, a concert. What is the theatrical arc of the recording? Because it's very specific, and it's really fine tuning something that makes people want to listen rather than listen to the first song and then go get a pizza.
Now, your career did not begin with the rose. I want to point out to everyone else. No, it didn't start out there. But you, I mean, as a songwriter, as a singer yourself, concert performer, actress, both on stage and on film, which of those hats fits the most comfortably for you?
Oh, Lord. Well, you know, I didn't start out to be a songwriter anyway. I was going to be Liza Minnelli. I was a singer. I was an actress. And when the songwriting happened through the whimsy of the gods of art and music, I realized that I could, to me, writing my own songs is writing monologues. Mm-hmm. They're all acting monologues. So for me, performing in concert is theater. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a series of acting pieces. I'm making a 3-act play out of all of these little songs. So I'm delighted because I still have my acting, and I'm also presenting my art to the world. So that's my favorite thing to do right now.
Now, your father also was an actor.
Yes, he was.
Could tell us a little bit about your father. And I was listening to Errol Flynn, one of my favorite songs of all time, this afternoon. And I was listening to that and really listening to the lyrics on a level that I've never really listened to in preparation for today. And I was thinking about your father, and this song was written about your father. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
And you can tell us a little bit about your father and growing up in a household with a parent who was an actor.
Well, both my parents they met doing theater. My mom directed him in Henry IV at Northwestern University, and the spark was lit. So I was growing up, and he was an actor, and she was a drama teacher and a voice teacher, a speaking voice teacher, elocution teacher. So I was surrounded by it continuously. And my dad was my first romantic hero. He holds such a huge place in my life. He was, I call him a B+ movie star. You know, he was not the headliner. Mostly, he was he was Errol Flynn's best friend. He was Rod Cameron's friend. He was a B+ movie star. And he was also the first father in a television sitcom, a family sitcom, a show called The Beulah Show way back in the day. Him and Hattie McDaniel, for heaven's sake, long ago. So he was a wonderful actor.
And Leslie Uggams.
Leslie Uggams too?
Yes,
oh,
Leslie Uggams
I didn't know. Well, yes. So yeah, he gave me he and my mother both gave me my love of language. From the time I was little, they would have all of their actor friends over to play, word games and drink martinis on a Friday night. They always invited me in my onesie to play. So from the time I was 4, I was playing word games with all these famous actors who knew, go figure. They weren't famous to me. My dad was famous to me. So he did films from 45 till maybe 50, and then he went into television, and then he retired from all of it after a while. Life retired him from there.
Now, with all of these elements surrounding you, I always like to go back. Now, go with me for a moment.
Okay.
5-year-old Amanda McBroom. That's before you start school and peer pressure gets added on. Teachers start molding you into what they think you should be or should not be. What were you like as a 5-year-old child? And obviously you were surrounded with the industry itself, but did those ideas of wanting to go into show business ever rear their head at that point in your life?
Oh God, yes. I'm the ultimate cheerful extrovert. I opened a refrigerator door when I was 5 and I would sing into it.
Yes.
Because good lighting, good
right, of course.
Yeah. No, I came out of the womb performing pretty much. It's just, I always have been very grateful for my inner pharmacopoeia. There are people that struggle with being shy or depressed or whatever. I was none of the above. I was just shot up with serotonin coming out of the womb.
I can relate to that.
I can tell that you can, honey. You look familiar to me.
Yes. Okay. So when did the opportunities start happening for you? Did you do school plays and, neighborhood playhouse, any of those things?
Yeah. When I was 10, I went to see a girlfriend of mine, and there was a wonderful theater called the North Hollywood Children's Playhouse. And I went to see her in Cinderella. And not only was she in Cinderella, she had a broken arm, and her arm was in a pink cast. And I said, I want to be on stage with my arm in a pink cast, please. And I talked my parents into letting me come and be part of this company. And it was me and John Ritter when he was 11, and Tim Matheson, all of these Linda Hemming, whose dad had created the Petticoat Junction and Beverly Hills Billies. It was all these Hollywood babies, and we all did children's theater, fairy tales. So I started acting for free when I was 11 and started getting paid for it when I was about 16.
And what was the circumstances surrounding your first paying job? And what did that do to your mindset as an entertainer?
Oh, Dallas Summer Music, State Fair musicals. I was a chorus. I was a chorus girl. I was in Oliver. I played a couple of teeny tiny roles in big musical productions, but I got a paycheck, and I got to sit in a dressing room with choreens and watch all these girls put on their tights and their makeup, and that was it. So that started it. That's when I thought I was just going to do musical theater.
And is that where you got your equity card as well?
Yeah, I got my equity card there. And then I went to the Oregon, once I got out of college, ran screaming from college, I went to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Ashland and learned about Shakespeare and classical theater and a paycheck. So that was fine too.
Now, have you spent your entire life living on the West Coast, or did you live in New York for a while as well?
Came to New York to do Jacques Brel at the Village Gate, and some other theater projects in New York. My first and only Broadway show, I did Seesaw. I was in the original company of Seesaw, and I lived in New York for a few years with my then honey, who has been my husband now for more years than we can count. We both did Brel together, and then he did Berlin to Broadway there. But we got called out to the States, out to California in 1971, I think, to do production of Brel in Los Angeles. And I hadn't been back home to California since I was 15. And we're driving down Sunset Boulevard through Beverly Hills. And I'm saying, look, there's trees and flowers, and there's the ocean, and the sky is blue. And and my husband and I both said, let's just stay here. And we were able to do that because we had we wound up doing Brel for quite a while, and then we wound up getting into television because we were new faces in town. So we did a lot of TV work. And California is where I'm from. I love New York. I love going back to visit, but after about 3 weeks, the adrenaline has a tendency to make my head explode.
Now, I want to go back once to Brel at the Village Gate. Was that the show that brought you to New York, or did that show happen after you came to New York? My husband George Ball was going back into the show at the Gate, and a friend of ours had written a really strange play for La Mama, and it asked me to go be in this strange play for La Mama. And so since George was in Brel, I came to do this strange play at La Mama, and then they were replacing one of the ladies in the New York company, and I auditioned for it and I got it. And that really, Brel changed my life forever. And we wound up going to Europe and doing a tour of Europe with Brel, and then coming back out to LA. And we did it all over. I've done about 4,000 performances of that show. Well, and that's what turned me into a songwriter. Brel turned me into a songwriter. Well, let's talk about that. How did that actually start for you? And did you write prior to this? Have you kept journals? Have you written other...
No, I never wrote anything except really good essay tests. I was the queen of the essay question in high school and college. But no, I never kept a journal. I never wrote anything, but we were in Cincinnati. We were in Cincinnati. George was doing Brel. I was on a night off, and I had my guitar because I've been a folk singer since I was 14. And I picked up my guitar and I started piddling, and something came out. And I played it for George when he got home, and he said, "You just wrote a song." I said, "Really?" And he said, "And it's really very good." And so that became my writing hobby. It was not poetry, not novels, I just folk sang with my guitar, and that's how I started writing.
Well, when you first started in cabaret or nightclubs, did you do all original material at the time, or did you start with the standards and sneak a few of your own songs into the process?
I'd had no idea what the word cabaret meant. I was in LA and I met my current best friend forever and writing partner, Michele Brourman, through a producer her boyfriend, who was a producer who lived in this teeny tiny Hollywood apartment complex where I lived. Mm-hmm. And she encouraged me to get up, and I was singing backup. Me and Sandy Bernhardt were singing backup for Michele, and when she was doing her gigs at the Blah Blah Cafe and the Horn in Santa Monica, all these funny little dives. And she encouraged me to put an act together of my own, which was "You Should Have Seen Me, Darling," in pink spandex and a corset.
Of course.
And a red corset and long blonde hair, which I flipped about in a fabulous manner. And I sang a lot of covers, but Michele would every once in a while say, "Just sneak one of your own in," which I would, terrified I would do, and found out that people liked my songs too. But the reason I became cabaret was that after the Rose happened, somebody invited Michele and I to Houston, to a gay bar in Houston called the Montrose City Hall. And I said, "Go to Houston and sing a song? Yay." But Michele said, "We can't have a band. We can't afford a band. It's just you and me. It's you stand up and me on the piano." "Oh, okay, then I guess maybe I shouldn't wear spandex and do rock and roll. I'll put on a tuxedo." So we went to the Montrose City Hall for a week, and I put on my version of a tuxedo, and we did mostly my songs with a few, Bette Midler covers just for the hell of it. Mm-hmm. And that's how my cabaret career started.
And at this point, had The Rose been released yet, or was this before that?
I don't remember. I think it was before The Rose was released, I think.
Now, you've said you did not start out to be a writer, but a prolific writer you've become. When The Rose happened, what was the first sign that, oh my God, my life is completely turning in kaleidoscopic colors right now?
Yeah, that was the hardest left turn of my life. I was not expecting it. I was not prepared for it. Everybody can say, "Oh, he would write another one of those." And I said, I don't know how to write. I don't know the business. Mm-hmm. Recording business was alien to me. But all of a sudden, here I had these 2 albums out. Here I had this hit song out. And I kept saying, "I'm not a writer. I'm not a songwriter. I'm an actress." And my husband kept saying, "Honey, what's paying the mortgage right now? Don't you think you should take a little responsibility for this?" Okay, I guess I'm a songwriter. Okay, and then trying to get my songs out into the world. And of course, I'm a really weird animal. I'm not rock and roll. I went around to try to be on other people's labels, but they'd say, "Oh no, we have Bernadette Peters. Mm-hmm. That's all. We don't need anybody theatrical. We have Bette Midler, but we don't need anybody like you." So, okay, that's why I started my own label back in the early 80s, because nobody else was going to record me.
Well, how does one start their own label?
Well, my beloved manager, his name is Gary George, and he managed Jennifer Warnes and Maria Muldaur and all these fabulous people. He likes eclectic women. And I just said to him, I think I need to start my own label since nobody else will record me. And God bless him. He said, great. Okay, let's do it. So he understood the business of getting a label started. So he did all the paperwork and the heavy lifting. And then I'd say, I want to sing this and this and this and this. And I found these. Now, this is after I had made those 2 direct-to-disc albums, and that Sheffield Labs had folded, and I found this astounding producing team, a fabulous fellow named Peter Bonetta and his partner Rick Chudikoff, and they had they'd done Robbie Dupree, and they'd done Matthew Wine, they'd done and they'd done Patti LaBelle. They were these really hip pop producers, and for some reason they liked me. We had met at the Grammys because my song was nominated for a Grammy in the only year they let the writers sing their songs. So I was up there with straightening Fred Ebb's tie and trying to keep him from hyperventilating because he had to go on stage and sing his own song, which he really didn't want to do. And they came up afterwards and we met, and Peter and she said, we want to produce a CD with you. I said, great, I happen to have a label. And that's how the CD started.
Well, I want to talk about those people who have landed in your path over the years, who have made the biggest impact on the stepping stones of your career. Who are a few of the people that just jump out at you when you think about that?
Inspirationally, Julie Wilson, Margaret Whiting.
Oh, God bless her.
The queen of them all. Michele Brourman, Joel Silberman. Do you remember?
Oh,
Joel?
yes, of course. Yes.
When Michele was going to have her first baby and couldn't be my music director anymore, she introduced me to Joel, who then became my music director while Michele was having her children, and he introduced me to Michael Feinstein, and he taught me how to bow. He taught me how to let people say thank you after a show, and he and Michele together helped form my cabaret persona. But Julie and Margaret are the ones that kept me going as far as a writer.
Now, I'm all about celebrating, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want you to mention any names, but are there people out there who have steered you in the wrong direction, or who have done things in your career that really helped to shape who you are today?
Nobody has steered me in the wrong direction. I might have steered myself, a couple of times to take a slight glitch off them. Oh, the other person who's the other angel on my planet is Portia Nelson.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
She's the first person I ever met before Julie and before Margaret who said, you're a songwriter. And she was the first person, anytime I would say, I can't ever do this again, who would chide me and say, yes, of course you can. And you must. And then, of course, Ann Hampton and John Bacchino, people who have welcomed me in and said, let's work together, or just said, everybody go see this person, which is, the thing that we have to do in cabaret, this odd animal that it is we have to get friends to go see other friends and, expand the consciousness, because God knows we're not going to get a lot of
radio. Would you repeat what you just said? Because I want everyone to hear what you said, because it resonates with me very loudly. Friends, get people to go see other friends.
Absolutely. It's a huge gift that you're giving your friends by turning them on to your other friends and just making the pool as wide as possible. Because when you stop and think about it, cabaret is this wonderful, wacky, push me, pull you animal made of a million different parts. You've got Ann Hampton, you've got Steve Ross, you've got Nicholas King, you've got all these wonderful people singing totally different stuff. Cabaret, you're not locked into a hook and a dance tune, that you have to dance to it. You're not locked into the fact that you have to sing only Gershwin. You can sing anybody you want. And you've got all these crazy, it's just the best ice cream store for music, for audience ears. Every flavor under the sun is in cabaret. Anything is allowed.
No, it's all allowed. It's anything that you want it to be.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something earlier about the eclectic women. Has anyone ever tried to pigeonhole you into a niche? And obviously, you are your own person. Yeah.
Well, it's really funny, Richard, when you say that, because the basic reason I got into cabaret was because I wanted to sing all my own songs. Because there was no way in hell that anybody else was ever going to hear my songs if I didn't sing them, you know. And the pigeonholing came when people would say, well, you have to have a theme. What is your theme? Is it, is it the ladies of Broadway? Is it Julie Andrews versus Bette Midler? What is your theme? Like, my theme is me, And eventually I realized that it helps to have an interesting title. You don't always have to say, and now here's Amanda McBroom, if Amanda's singing, so I started to try to think of, okay, I have a theme. And that's as pigeonholed as I've ever been, is when I say, okay, I'm going to do songs that sound like they came from the 40s, only I wrote them all. Okay, I'm going to do, songs that sound like they're from Nashville, but I wrote them all. Okay, so my theme, the theme is my pigeonhole.
Well, in this business, perceptions are not always what we are feeling inside. People may think of The Rose, for example, as being your big break, and perhaps it is.
Yes.
Internally, did that feel to you like, this is it? I have arrived. I have proven myself in this industry. I'm all about celebrating a person's body of worth. Is this the moment where you said, I am worthy?
No. This was the moment when I said, what the hell is going on? It was, I still have a hard time ever putting on the I am worthy tiara. Mm-hmm. I keep it pretty much in my
I'll put it on for you. You are worthy.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, no. Sometimes there was one moment where I realized that, oh my, maybe I deserve to be around, is when Julie Wilson did an evening of my songs at the Algonquin. And then I thought, wow, okay. Someone of her stature wanted to do an evening of my material. That was fierce.
And what was that feeling when she called you and told you that this is what she wanted to do?
Oh, I was dancing around the room in my underwear for days. Aside from the fact that she was a dear friend, mm-hmm. Nobody interprets a song the way Julie interpreted it.
That's right.
And because my stuff is, theatrical, it was so right in her mouth, So that was a moment of high cotton for me, I have to say.
What is that moment like for you when you're sitting in the audience and you're hearing a singer sing one of your songs, and they bring an element to the song that you had never thought of before? Because I'm sure that's happened to you.
Oh, God,
yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's always wonderful, because I learn so much. Yeah, I forget, and I've talked to a couple of other songwriters. I forget that I wrote the song. If I am engrossed in somebody's performance, I forget that that's my song. I might think that, hey, that's a nice song, but I'm so lost in watching other people's choices, mm-hmm. dramatic choices, as long as they don't mess the words up really badly or rewrite them, that gets me a little hot. But I always learn something new and frequently steal from people singing my material.
Now, Richard Rodgers, for example, would steam if anyone. There's a great story, I don't know if you know, with Peggy Lee.
No.
She recorded Lover, and she went up to him at a party and said, have you heard my song? And he said, it's supposed to be a waltz. And he walked away from her. And she said she was crestfallen because she thought that he would like it. But has anyone ever really put a spin on one of your songs that is so far off of what you wrote that you just cringed listening to it? And again, we don't mention names.
No, I have heard so many different versions of The Rose. I've heard Jack Black sing it, which
Yes.
was from Amy Poehler. Thrilled me. The only time, well, the pedal steel country western version by the German band was interesting. They Shall Remain Nameless, although I'm sure in the pedal steel German band world, maybe it was made an impression. I remember I did receive a letter from a plastic surgeon one time who asked for permission to rewrite the lyric. He seemed quite serious, and he was saying about, some say eyes, they are the mirror of the soul, but I say it is the nose. And I wrote him back and said, no, you may not. But aside from that, I haven't heard anybody make a complete mess of it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great. Now, since you started in the business has obviously changed a lot. We've already talked about albums and the fact that people listen to songs individually now, as opposed to the arc of just sitting and listening to a full album. Let's talk about some of the changes that you've seen in the business, changes that you absolutely embrace, changes that you are not so crazy about, and what you miss the most about what was in place when you began in this business.
Okay. I miss albums. I miss the art form, everything from the album cover. I miss going to Tower Records and wanting one thing and coming home with 7. I miss lying on a sofa with some sort of mood elevating whatever, and listening to all of West Side Story, listening to all of Sweeney Todd, listening to the art form of the album. I think one of the good things that has happened through all of this streaming and everybody creating their own home studios, and some of that directly related to COVID and a lot of it even beforehand. But the fact that a lot of writers who would never, ever have any exposure except to their grandma, on a birthday party, have been able to put stuff out there. So the opportunity for certain artists, some of whom are really good, but from Lithuania or wherever, that opportunity, I think, is wonderful. The streaming thing that has turned songwriters into people having to beg for money, I think, is appalling. Songwriters not being protected, having to fight for every nano penny is appalling to me. I'm old, I try to educate myself to some of the new music coming out, and some writers speak to me. A lot of what is considered, hip and trendy right now, I find annoying. I can't say, I'm like hip hop, God bless Hamilton. And hip hop is a reason that a lot of young people went and got a dictionary. And so a lot of really interesting verbiage. I'm a word person. I love a good lyric, and a lot of hip hop, when it isn't gangster and when it isn't, unkind or uncouth, is really great art. I regret that right now it's much more important. The rhythm is all that's important right now, and the hook is what's important. And the story, aside from people like, God bless her, Taylor Swift, God bless Jason Isbell, there's some people out there who are still writing story songs. Story songs are my heart because, my theater base. Dance tracks don't thrill me unless they're really, really good, But
there's also a time, in both of our lives, where listening to the radio and hearing a mixture of music. And for me personally, this is my theory. I believe that the greatest disservice forgive me, everyone, to the industry is MTV. And I say this because when MTV came along, it was a niche audience. And it was and so an entire generations of people have grown up not knowing who those artists of our parents and grandparents' generation was. And I grew up knowing who they were because there were 3 networks and they were vying for the largest demographic that they could get. Were you a big radio listener? And if so, what was that experience like for you the first time you heard one of your songs on the radio?
Oh my God. You just threw me right back. I was back in Texas, which is where I spent my high school and college years, in a little tiny town on the Mexican border, and now it's probably the most dangerous part of the country. Mm. But at the time, it was this sleepy little town. I had gone back to visit my aunt, and an old boyfriend had invited me over to his house for tacos and beer. And we were just sort of sitting around and reminiscing. And all of a sudden, The Rose came on the radio for the first time. And I said to him, Cecil, shut up. Shut up.
They're playing our song. This is it.
And then we went, woo-hoo! And we danced around the room and drank more beer and ate more tacos. But it was a moment of total surreality to me. I could not believe what I was hearing. I thought he had set it up. No, it was on the radio.
And then, and then you're waiting for, when is it going to come back on? When is it going to come back on?
That was back in the days when there were live DJs and they had things in rotation. That's another thing I miss. The art form of the live DJ. When you think that now DJs make, the really famous ones make huge amounts of money artfully designing tracks for dances, for parties, for blah, blah, blah. But there are not too many DJs, unless you're listening to NPR, who are artfully creating the arc of an afternoon of, music. And DJs used to be independent. They used to program whatever they wanted. And now a lot of it's computer programmed. Algorithms, baby.
I know. It's a completely different ball of wax. I want to talk a little bit about the business end of the business with you. Have you really developed, with all due respect, a huge business sense of how everything works? Or have you been lucky enough to choose the right people who handle that aspect for you?
Plan B. I have been lucky in that I have including my husband and my manager and the couple of producers that I've worked with who understand that, you're born with certain gifts. Mm-hmm. Certain people can read a contract. Certain people can write a lyric. Certain people absolutely understand that arcana, which is the business of an art form. I'm not gifted that way. I know what's a good choice and what is not a good choice. I'm not real good at initiating. My arms are wide open to any opportunity that comes. And so my Aunt George or Gary, my manager, will say, this one's not for you. I have learned how to say the word no. It was a very difficult, no. It's a very difficult word for me to learn because, yes is tattooed on my forehead. But I have finally.
Well, are you very ambitious in terms of the pursuit of your career, or have you, once again, with all due respect to the fact that the talent is there, been lucky enough with the connections that you've made along the years? Sticking around for a while helps all of us. It's the connections you meet along the way. Where do you fit in on the spectrum between ambition and the right people at the right place at the right time?
Well, ambition leads you to the right people at the right place at the right time. Luck is nice, but don't trust on it completely. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have been very ambitious in the past and envious, and watched a couple of people whom I love and adore and wanted to be them. And watched the decisions that they made and tried to copy what I thought was smart. And, copying what's a smart person does is not a stupid thing to do.
There's a great book I'm going to recommend called Real Artists Don't Starve by Jeff Goins. Do you know the book?
No, I'm writing it down.
Yes, he has an entire chapter on stealing from the best. And when he talks about stealing, he's not talking about stealing material, but stealing that paradigm that has made those people successful.
And it's not really stealing, it's copying.
Yes.
Stealing is just a sexier word.
Yes.
My ambitions now, as I look at the clock and the calendar of my life, are not what they were when I was 30 or 40 or even 60. Now, one of the things that I really enjoy is teaching as well. You know, I don't want to put my bra away. I want to continue to perform because I still have a lot to contribute and new songs that need to be heard. But I also like to work, and I teach with Michele Brourman a lot, God bless her. People who want to perform, people who want to write, share the knowledge. Because again, it's one of those things where when you teach, you learn from the people that you're teaching. They have so much to offer. So that's something that I am more and more interested in.
Now, are there particular roles that you still have on your horizon that you want to play?
Oh,
What are the aspects of the business that you haven't done that you would really love to have a chance at?
well, darling, if the stamina held.
It's holding. I know it is.
Well, you know, there's three roles that I have done that I would do again in a heartbeat. And two of them I might be able to pull off. I could probably pull off Mame again, which is that's who I am. You know, God bless Jerry Herman. That's who I am. Mrs. Lovett, I've done a couple of times. And if the brain cells would hold up, I would love to do her again. Theater, I would love to do I would love to go back and do some music or straight theater again, if it was offered to me.
Now, going back, we started with that 5-year-old Amanda McBroom.
See.
Yes. If you were at this point in your life now, what would you say to that 5-year-old girl looking back over the arc of your life and career?
I would say you're on the right path. Don't take no for an answer. Trust that you are good enough. But she made the right choices because here I am.
Absolutely.
She made the right choices.
Now, I want to weigh out the two words here, yes and no. So looking at the word yes, what was the one moment when you said yes, and it was absolutely the right moment to say yes in your life? Oh,
there have been many of them, but the one that just bleeps into my brain right now is when 20th Century Fox asked if I would give over part of my copyright so that they could use the song in the film. And I had never had a song in a film, and I was saying, it's my song, it's my copyright. And I was doing the pilot with Paul Williams for his ill-fated TV series. And we were sitting in a car together, and I was telling him, they want my copyright. And he looked at me and he said, have you ever had a song in a movie before? And I said, no. And he said, give it to them. So I went,
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Yes, you may have this song.
And the flip side of that, no. When did you say no and it was the right time to say no in your career?
Wow. I can't think of a time that I said no. Well, there were a few strange offers to do, cruise lines going to Tasmania or something, but I can't think of a no.
Wow.
Well, no, okay. There's one comes to mind.
Okay, go ahead.
There was a musical that Michele and I wrote, and it got real close to going to New York, but it was a toxic environment. And I said, we can't do this anymore. It's too toxic. And it broke my heart to say it, but it was killing us. And it was the right thing to do.
Was that one of the toughest times to get through, knowing that you really wanted that the end result was what you're looking for instead of the process of getting there?
Yeah, it was killing I won't say it was killing a baby. It was putting Sleeping Beauty to sleep. And, she hasn't been kissed yet, but she was heading in the wrong direction.
Wow. Well, I have to say, first of all, we are at the end of our show.
Oh, poop.
It flew for me. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to be respectful of everyone else's time. And this is one time where I am thrilled that you said yes. So I am glad.
Richard.
No, I am so thrilled that you came today. Don't go anywhere for a moment.
Okay.
I want to thank everyone for being here today. If you enjoy today's show, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates on YouTube. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. We are always looking for those comments. It helps both Amanda, myself, and everything that we're doing. I want to let you know also, Amanda, anytime that you're doing anything, feel free to leave information on any of my pages. Tag me, and so that my followers will see it as well. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the 8th name that pops up today, I want you to reach out with a phone call, not a text message, not an email message, but not even a private message, a phone call, and let that person know what they mean to you. As a dear friend of mine says, David Friedman, he says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And you never know what someone else is going through right now.
Oh, maybe.
So reach out.
Idea. Yes.
And I say, if you're going to be in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along.
Oh,
now, now before we sign off, I am actually going to leave the screen, and I'm giving you the platform to yourself. And anything that you want to say to anyone who's watching right now, to expound upon anything that we've talked about today, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had, or just any message that you want to say to anyone listening right now. I thank you, Amanda. I am such a fan of yours. And this is a great honor to be sitting down and chatting with you today. And I'm going to blow you a kiss through the Ethernet, and it's all yours.
Oh, dear. Well, that's a heavy responsibility. Okay, let me say to friends of Richard, which I hope is an ever-expanding universe, thank you for coming along. Thank you for listening. I think Richard's idea about calling somebody is hugely important. May I encourage you, when the feeling hits, pick up a pencil and a piece of paper and write a poem. You don't have to show it to anybody. You don't have to share it, but express a feeling in poetry. Doesn't even have to rhyme, but write something today about how you're feeling and fold it up very carefully and put it away somewhere so that you can open it up on another day and see what your heart was saying to you today. That's a fun thing to do. And I ask you to have a great day. Keep your hope muscles alive. Keep your honest muscles alive. Don't fall for the baloney. Life is a wonder. Take care.